Okay. Good evening and welcome. I would like to call to order the Board of Education meeting of May 11th, 2020. Molly, good evening. Has the meeting been posted and the agenda made available to the public in accordance with the Nebraska Open Meetings Act?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. And as required by law, a current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall at the entrance door to the meeting room at the ABC building and is also posted on the district website. Molly, you can go ahead and take the roll, please.
Certainly. Miss Blakely.
Yes.
Mr. Yale.
Yes.
Miss Carnes.
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer.
Yes.
Miss Morissette.
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody would please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. First order of business tonight would be to entertain a motion for the approval of the Board of Education minutes of the Board of Education meeting held on April 27th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, then Molly, please take the roll.
Yes. Mr. Yale.
Yes.
Miss Carnes.
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer.
Yes.
Miss Morissette.
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder.
Yes.
Miss Blakely.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Treasurer, please let her rip.
Thank you, Adam. As far as our report goes this month, I guess starting with the expenditure statement, the enterprise fund is up in terms of expenditures. Those are due primarily to expenses associated with the Loveland rental properties or the properties around Loveland. There was a discrepancy or an adjustment that's going to be made next month in terms of payroll expense for the spring break week, which this year fell in April as opposed to late March last year. So therefore, that's going to appear in a different pay period, and that's going to show a variance in terms of an expense. Expenses are lower in a spring break week because classified and other hourly staff is not working that week. So that's the reason for the change from year to year on that item. Benefits expenditures are a bit higher, and that's again due to payments to build up the reserve for the self-funded portion of health insurance. The other themes that I've reported on many times that you have heard are consistent with the in terms of the TANs, timing of those being the amounts being different this year versus last year. But if you look at the balance sheet, things are quite tight from last year's compared with this year. So it's a pretty good picture from that standpoint. So unless there's any comments or questions, or if Brian or Bob had anything else to add that I should have added.
Just one thing, I guess, comment on the revenue. We're going to have reduced revenue in nutrition services, and also in the school activity fund and in the enterprise fund because of the buildings being closed.
Thanks, Bob. Yes, that is true. If there's any other questions or comments, try to answer them. If not, then I would recommend approval of expenditures in the amount of $7,439,068.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Before we proceed, Bob, if you wouldn't mind, do we have any data from county collections in terms of how it's progressing relative to year over year, anything of that nature? Any sort of revenue indications whatsoever that might be useful?
Yeah, well, the March was really close, so we were really good. And Brian, if you please jump on and because I can't remember the percent. We already have the data for April. I'm sorry for May collections. So Brian, if you could please jump on because I can't remember the percent down we are.
I don't know if he is on the call or not.
Okay, well, let's see. Let me find it quick.
Would that be under Bob, or expenses under, or I mean revenue? The page. Let's see if I can find it here.
No, this would be this month's because we already got the data from the county for this month revenue. I just let's see. I have to find the email here quick.
The other thing is we can always come back to that if it's
If we could. Oh wait, here we go. May's payment is going to be down 236,000 below last year, which is 4.7%. Because the county already sent us the notice for the payment, we just haven't actually received the cash.
Okay.
So.
And do they give you any sort of indication as to what percentage of total assessed tax has been collected to this point or anything of that nature? Just any,
No, not at all.
sort of send it as they get it, kind of.
Exactly.
Unless it's hiding in a drawer somewhere. Okay. Got it. All right. So if no one has any further questions, then the treasurer's report approval has been moved and seconded. Are there any further questions or comments? And if not, then Molly, please proceed.
Yes. Ms. Carnes,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Ms. Morissette,
Yeah.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely,
Yes.
Mr. Yale.
Yes. Okay. Doug, thank you very much. We move on to communications. I don't know who is doing communications tonight or if there is a communications segment, but if someone wants to jump in, go for it.
This is Mike. Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Molly, you can hear me? So communications wise,
We move on to communications. I don't know who is doing communications tonight or if there is a communications segment.
I think Molly's on like an audio lag again.
Go ahead, Dr. Lucas. I have Molly muted, so you can talk. Yep, you're good. Yep, you're good.
okay, so communications wise, Brandy Paul and her department have been working really hard. Tomorrow morning, you're going to see the 12th grade senior class awards night presentation that'll be sent out over social media. That'll go off tomorrow morning. Our 9th through 11th grade awards night, which was originally scheduled for May 4th, will take place via social media later this week. So getting a lot of those awards and honors nights taken care of this week through Brandy's office. So be looking for those things, like I said, starting tomorrow morning.
Thank you. If there's nothing more to add, then I think I am supposed to mention public comment here. This is the point on the agenda where we typically invite public comment. However, due to the unique circumstances of not being able to meet in person, we will not hear public comment tonight. As a reminder to our community, you do, as always, have the ability to submit comments via email or via regular mail to any member of the Board of Education or to Dr. Lucas. Our email addresses are on the district's website. Comments via regular mail should be addressed to the ABC Building, 909 South 76th Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68114. As always, we look forward to being able to be back in the boardroom soon and taking public comments in person. We will move on to new business. We have some board policies for approval, some second readings. And so I believe this is Allison, and Allison, go ahead and take it away.
Yes, well, thank you. Can everybody hear and see me? Just checking in, nod, yes, okay, good. Yes, as part of our ongoing policy review, we brought 4 policies for the board's consideration at the last meeting. They were Board Policy 1155, vacancies, Board Policy 1250, attendance at meetings, Policy 1220, public meetings, and Policy 4601, the new emergency FMLA and paid sick leave. Unless anybody has any comments or suggestions, we would ask for recommendation. We would recommend approval of these 4 policies.
Are there any further questions regarding this policy? And if not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
For approval for the administration's recommended revisions to board policy 1155.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. If there are no further questions, then Molly, please take the roll.
Yes. Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Ms. Morissette,
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely,
Yes.
Mr. Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you. The next policy, I believe on the agenda, oh, I'm sorry, is it up for Bob now on student fees?
We're 1250 is what we have listed as next.
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry.
And we have to go through 3 more policies. So I will move for approval of the administration's recommended revisions to board policy 1250.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, then Molly, please take it away.
Yes, Ms. Morissette,
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely,
Yes.
Mr. Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes,
Yes.
and Mr. Krenzer.
Yes.
Okay.
I move for approval of the administration's recommended revisions to board policy 1220.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Hearing no further discussion, Molly, please let her rip.
Yeah, Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Carnes,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer, Ms. Morissette.
Yes.
Okay. We are now to 4601, personnel, emergency FMLA, and paid sick leave.
(4601) student fees.
6340 is student fees.
Right, sorry.
I think that's your motion. Do you want me to make it?
I move for the approval of administration's recommendation of new board policy 4601.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, then Molly, please take roll.
Yes, Ms. Blakely,
Yes.
Yes.
Carnes,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Ms. Morissette.
Yes. Yes.
Now we move on to 6340, which is student fees.
Yes, we had the public hearing at the last board meeting and did not have any comment. I have not received any comments in the interim. And so just to summarize, we tried to hold the changes down to as few as we could do this year. There's no change in transportation expense. We have a between a 5 and 15 cent increase in breakfast and lunch prices. A couple of new fees for new camps at the high school, and a couple of adjustments on school instrument usage fees. And that should do it for setting up fees for the 2021 school year.
Bob, have you historically gotten many comments on student fee issues?
Haven't for a couple of years.
I didn't think so. Okay. I move for approval of the administration's recommended revisions to Board Policy 6340, student fees for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, then Molly, please take roll.
Yes, Mr. Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes, Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely,
Okay. We will move on to a board policy for review, number 3200, which is purchasing and bids. Take it away.
Yes, that I believe is back to me now. 3,200 purchasing and bids. We are recommending some revisions in the first section, which discusses purchase of supplies and equipment. We've added some additional language to state specifically what the current practice is in place, namely that major purchases are discussed in advance with the board as part of the budgeting process ahead of time, and that purchase of supplies or equipment not already contemplated in the budget would be brought to the board for their approval, for their consideration and a vote. The second section has to do with the public bidding statute. There are statutory requirements in place when a school district is bidding for construction or remodeling or repair of school buildings. The current contemplated amount that would kick in the public bidding requirements is $100,000. It was changed a number of years ago, and we noticed that our policy still had the old $40,000 amount. So we have revised that to the $100,000, but we've also added in language that in the event it is increased, which it may be soon, that it would just automatically be that increased amount, that we know what the public bidding amount floor is and that we will be complying with it. Then we've added a section on purchase of services, which again, this is to reflect, to put into policy and make clear what the current practice is, and that namely, again, those types of things are discussed with the board, but in the event there's anything outside of something new, something outside of what was contemplated in the budget, it would be brought to the board. And then finally, in that section, at times the board itself does want to retain their own professional services. The prime example that comes to mind is when you retain a superintendent search firm. That is something that requires a majority vote to decide to enter into that type of professional services agreement. So again, to put into policy what the current practice has been. Tonight is a first presentation, and so if there's any questions, we'd be happy to entertain them. Otherwise, we will be back at the next meeting asking for approval.
Allison, I see there's no dollar threshold for what are, major purchases, right, discussed during the budget process. I'm sure the thinking is that anything that's contemplated to be at all significant would be part of the discussions anyway, even in the absence of a policy on it, right? I mean,
Right.
if there's a major budget item, you're going to discuss it.
the example that comes to mind are the Apple purchases, the technology purchases, that type of thing is obviously discussed with the board. I don't know. Bob or Mike, if you want to weigh in, that's my understanding.
We talked about, this is Mike, we talked about with, budget construction over the summer months, we'll be telling you what are line item issues that we're budgeting for, and then things that are outside of that. We've had a couple recent examples because of COVID, the light pole project at Phelps Field, and different things like air conditioning later on tonight's agenda. So we want to communicate at a high level and make sure that the board is not surprised, our patrons are not surprised about what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Makes a lot of sense. And it's good practice. So thank you for the refresh. Anybody else have any questions or comments or thoughts regarding this policy? Okay, if not, we will move on. Thank you, Allison. We are going to talk about Bond Oversight Committee appointments. I presume this is Bob, or is it?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So coming up at the end of this month, Chris Brown and Ann Christensen's terms are up on the BOC. They are at the end of their second term. They both have indicated the desire to remain on the BOC for another term. As you're well aware, we're finishing up the last project in Prairie Lane, last project in phase one. And so we would ask that the board make an exception to their charter that would approve Chris and Ann for another term on the BOC.
Very good. Thank you. Any comments or questions regarding this?
I just want to let the record show that we have talked about this in previous situations, and that it's a unique situation with COVID and with us rounding up our bond. And so that it may make more sense this time to allow for this exception, as Bob put it, because this was a good conversation we had last year with previous term limits. And so I appreciate the continued evaluation of this process and the need for the knowledge that we have in the room, and the continued interest by our community members to help support the district with our bond oversight.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. If there is no further discussion regarding this item, I would seek a motion for approval.
I move to approve the reappointment of Chris Brown and Ann Christensen to serve an additional 2-year term on the Bond Oversight Committee from June 2020 through May 2022.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Prior to our vote here, I would certainly like to thank Mr. Brown and Ms. Christensen for their service to date. And should this be approved, I also excited to have them on the committee going forward. So thank you. If there are no further thoughts or questions on the matter, then Molly, please take it away.
Yes. Ms. Carnes?
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer? Ms. Morissette?
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder?
Yes.
Ms. Blakely? Yes. Mr. Yale?
Yes. Okay, thank you. We now get to the home improvement portion of the evening. We have a number of bids to entertain, and I presume that this is Russ's domain, but whoever is leading here, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Yale. This is, yes, Russ. The first air conditioning at high school in the competition. We had 3 bids for the work to be completed with Train Technologies as the control contractor, so we can control the unit itself. Unit for the Iman Plumbing was the lowest responsible bid, just a shade under 40,000. And then Train Technologies for their bid, shade under of 16,000. Train is the controls contractor for all of the units at the high school. So it makes sense for us to continue with Train controls there. So that is item number 1 for the high school AC installation.
You want me to make a motion, Adam, or do you?
Yes. Why don't
Okay.
we do the one at a time, as they all are a little bit different in nature, different buildings. So
Sure. I move for approval of the bid received by Iman Plumbing and as recommended by the administration for the AC installation project at the Westside High School main gym.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Molly, if there's no further conversation, please let her rip.
Yeah. Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Ms. Morissette,
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely,
Yes.
Mr. Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes.
Yes.
Okay. Would anyone like to move to approve the Train Technologies bid?
Yes, I move for approval of the bid received by Train Technologies and as recommended by the administration for updates to existing train controllers for the main gym AC installation project at the high school.
Would anyone like to second?
Second.
Second.
All right.
All right.
It has been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, Molly, please take the roll.
Yes. Ms. Blakely,
Yes.
Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
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 Okay. Russ, you're going to talk to us about the chiller at West Campus.
Yes, as part of the long-term facility management plan, we have enlisted the help of Morrissey Engineering to replace the chiller at West Campus. It is nearly 30 years old and very, very much in danger of dying on us at any time. MMC is the contractor. We are recommending for the work. They came in with the lowest response. We had 8 formal bids and we had very competitive pricing out of this. So I feel very comfortable. MMC is also the contractor that is working with us on a rooftop unit at Rockbrook. So if there's not any questions there, MMC contractors.
Terrific.
Adam, I move for the approval of the bid received by MMC Contractors and as recommended by the administration for the chiller replacement project West Campus.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. If there are no further questions or thoughts, then Molly, please take roll.
yes. Mr. Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Yes.
very
good. Thank you.
Oh,
And me?
oh, wait, Dr. Van Gelder?
Yes.
And a yes for me too, Molly.
Yes, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Now we've got all 6. My apologies. So we will move on to the roofing projects. Russ, go ahead and tell us all about them. Maybe we'll just go through the descriptions here and then we'll approve all 4 in succession after you have told us all about them.
Okay, fair enough. The first one is at Westside High School. This is what we would refer to as the Pacific Wing at Westside High School. It is one of the 19 hailstorm. So that is a section. We got pretty good bids on that one as well. And actually, McKinnis and Sheet Metal is the contractor we are recommending for that work. Next is a replacement at Westside Middle School. That is, again, we got contracting. We had 6 formal bids on that one. JR Roofing LLC was awarded the lowest. Excuse me, they were the lowest responsible bid. Over the northwest section of the building and closest to our street. It's one of the oldest sections of that particular building. The third project is at Rockbrook, and that project is a unique project because we are doing a roof coating instead of an actual roof replacement on that. For logistics, that project was the lowest responsible bid on that one is JR Roofing LLC. They are the lowest responsible bid that came in and met the specifications that were set forth by TAC Architects and the district. And then the last one is for Westbrook, and that is Westbrook proper. It has nothing to do with the Boys and Girls Club. That is the main portion of Westbrook proper. And all 4 of these projects, that insurance settlement we received from EMC from the 2019 hailstorm a year ago. So all of the projects would be completed before school starts as a condition of the contracts, and all 4 of the contractors feel that they can get that done at that time. Oh, I'm sorry, that last Westbrook was 10 min roofing.
Go ahead, say that one more time, please, Russ.
I'm sorry, the Westbrook contractor is 10 min roofing. That was who the contractor was. I forgot to mention that before.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated. Okay, so we have been able to review all of the bidding materials on here. Are there any further questions or comments about any of these pre-mentioned projects? And if not,
Russ, I just had one question, if I could. Russ, thanks for all your work on this. On projects 2 and 4, the middle school and Westbrook, I know that WeatherGuard had the lowest base bid on both those projects. Were there other conditions that they could not meet, or were they just higher when those additional considerations or conditions were added? If you know,
it was part of the formal process, Mr. Krenzer. Some of the forms and some of the requirements set forth by the district were not met in terms of some of the bonding when we went through that with TAC Architects. So, I mean, in some cases those are technicalities, and it's fortunate, but same token, that's why we have the formal process to make sure that everybody's held to the same standards.
Sure, that's what I thought. Thanks, Russ. Appreciate it.
Okay, very good.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Russ. I would entertain a motion for each of these 4 projects. So anyone want to lead that off?
I move for approval of the bid received by McInnes Roofing and Sheet Metal LLC and is recommended by the administration for the roofing project at Westside High School.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, then Molly, please take roll.
Yes. Ms. Carnes?
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer?
Yes.
Ms. Morissette?
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder?
Yes.
Ms. Blakely?
Yes.
Mr. Gale?
Yes. Okay. Project at Westside Middle School.
I move for approval of the bid received by JR Roofing LLC and as recommended by the administration for the roofing project at Westside Middle School.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Barring any further discussion, Molly, please take roll.
Yes. Mr. Krenzer?
Yes.
Ms. Morissette,
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely. Yes. Mr. Gale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes.
Yes.
All right, I'm ready to make a motion for project number 3. I move for approval of the bid received by JR Roofing LLC and as recommended by the administration for the roofing project at Rockbrook Elementary School.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, then Molly, please take roll.
Yes. Ms. Morissette,
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely. Yes. Mr. Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer.
Yes.
All right. So I move for approval of the bid received by 10 Men Roofing and as recommended by the administration for the roofing project at Westbrook Elementary School.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. We stand to have a lot of new square footage in roofing. If Molly, you will just take the roll.
Yes. Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely. Yes. Mr. Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Ms. Morissette.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Russ. We move on to the WEA contract addendum. I'm going to guess this is Mike and/or Enid. Do you want to take it away? Please do.
This is Mike, and Enid and I worked on this with WEA leadership, and something that came about quickly, but we appreciate the board support back in the first week or so of the madness. It started around March 10th, 11th, somewhere in there. And so to make a long story short, this is an addendum that will allow us to have our teachers cut their 2019-20 contractual obligation by 5 days. So from 191 days to 186 days. And then we will be able to add 3 days to the 2020-21 contract. So because it's a situation that impacts 2 different contract years, we wanted to have a formal addendum. We call it the 5-for-3 swap, but the 3 gives us a lot of flexibility to deal with all the unknowns moving forward as we prep for 2020-21.
Very good. Thank you. I, at this time, would just like to let everybody know that I received a call from Teresa Matthews over the weekend, just thanking the administration and Mike and Enid and Mark and attendance staff for your foresight in getting out in front of this issue quickly, your communication around sundry items dealing with both the, I guess, the upshot of the pandemic that's affected school districts in so many ways, and then for your collaboration. And I would just note, it sounded quite similar to the joint statement that both Mike and Teresa sent out earlier today. And so we on the board realize that one, these are extraordinary times, but two, that we have an extraordinary relationship that is being tended to by pretty extraordinary people, and I think it will serve us well today and serve us well going forward. So thank you for bringing this to us. Thank you for having that foresight, and thank you everybody for being willing to work together for the good of students. It's really appreciated.
I totally agree with what Adam said, and I will make the motion.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I have a question.
Yes.
Mike or Enid, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure because contract days and months get tricky. This does not have a negative impact to our retirees, correct? Like there's a lot of language in that addendum, and I just want to make sure that it's not disrupting anybody's path to retirement this year or.
No, No, no impact on 1920 retirees. Now, there is a scenario in play for the 2021 school year that if we went into June with in-person instruction, that the people that want to retire at the end of the 2021 school year, we would give them the ability to be done May 31, so it doesn't have a negative impact on their 2021 retirement.
Could I ask though that if, and I understand that, I mean, and I understand there's no workaround for that, but that could be a scenario where we're starting later though, too, right? Correct?
Correct. And we would work with the retirement off. We've already started the process with the commissioner's office, the retirement office, for a lot of flexibility moving forward because of all the unknowns. So we're on it. But at the end of the day, I would just say we would not hamstring anybody and negatively impact their retirement. We would figure it out.
That was my concern. Thank you for addressing that.
You bet.
All right, before Dana interrupted me. I move for the approval of the contract addendum between Westside Community Schools and the Westside Education Association as presented by the administration.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, then Molly, please take the roll.
Ms. Blake? Okay, Mr. Yale?
Yes.
Ms. Carnes?
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Morissette?
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to the personnel report. Dr. Schoenweiss, good evening.
Good evening. Yes, we have two probationary contracts that we want to get approved tonight. We have all of our positions verbally accepted. You'll see a couple more that are in process right now that will come to you at the next board meeting. But certified staffing for this minute, we're full for the first time. So you'll see a couple more that are in process, but we have two tonight probationary contracts that we'd be recommending for approval.
That is big news. Thank you for that. We are excited about next fall, no matter how it comes to us. So
Absolutely.
I would seek approval for the personnel report.
I'll make that motion. Enid, I saw that one of our hirees did her clinical practice with us. I assume that helped us identify her as a candidate that we wanted. Is that the case?
That is the case, yeah. And we, I know you've heard us talk a lot about the student teachers and the people doing practicums that we have and cooperation partnerships with UNO and other colleges. So yeah, it's very helpful, and we see them in action and we know they're great, and so then we can hire them.
Well, that's great. Thank you for your efforts for that. Appreciate that. I move for approval of the personnel report as presented by the administration.
It has been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, then Molly, please take roll.
Yes. Mr. Yale?
Yes.
Ms. Carnes?
Yes.
Sir?
Yes.
Ms. Morissette?
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder?
Yes.
Ms. Blakely? Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we move on to the recommendation from the Succession Planning Committee for the 2020-2021 Superintendent Succession Plan. I guess I will lead this off, and then anyone else who served on the committee, please feel free to chime in. And then as well, Dr. Schoenweiss will talk a little bit just about the district succession plan, which is really, as I understand it, what the superintendent succession plan was modeled on. And so we're grateful for that. So the Succession Planning Committee reviewed our plan if we were to have any sort of contingency uh, around our superintendent position, and if Dr. Lucas were unable to serve. And we made a couple, really the plan in place, which was put in place a couple of years ago, I think under Beth is a good one. The only changes that we added were in the case of an acting superintendent, if for whatever reason no one at the assistant superintendent level were able to serve, we could go deeper into the organization to be able to find an acting superintendent. We also sort of discussed just any kind of logistics around that. We made sure we have a refreshed RFP form put together should we have to do a superintendent search, and just kind of solidified all of the thinking around that. So that was the entirety of it. Is there anyone else on the committee or Dr. Lucas that would like to add to that? Doesn't sound like it. In which case, that's very good. Dr. Schoenweiss, maybe why don't you talk a little bit about succession planning within the district, which we're pleased to hear and see is thoughtful and robust, and really provides us a valuable roadmap come or go or move up or down.
Yeah, absolutely. Here at Westside, we take succession planning very, very seriously. And I think it's a really important piece that as we start about transition and legacy, and we don't want things to drop off when we have people who retire or move on. And so several years ago, when we started to develop our succession plan, we did some research and training. Allison McGinn was a big piece of this as well. And so we started with the district leadership, which is all the administrators, principals, directors, those kinds of things. And we identified a list of folks, and we look at how long they've been here. So some of us are closer to retirement than others, so we can identify folks, how long they're, we call them, let's see, like high risk that they might be leaving sooner, or somebody who just got a job who probably be with us longer. So we try to identify folks that we think are going to be on our watch list. And then we look at potential leaders in our district and outside our district that might be someone who could fill those jobs. And if they're inside our district, then we can use that time to help promote them into activities and give them some training and familiarity with leadership in that area, use them for different projects, things like that. So there's a variety of ways that we use this succession planning. In addition to Leadership Westside is a big piece of that as well. But we use it a lot. We update it annually. Senior leadership does that process along with a little bit of my office doing some of the legwork. There's a succession piece where we look at the skills, knowledge, and abilities, attributes that are needed for that position, so we can kind of work to develop those skills within our leadership pipeline. So I have it here. It's a big book and it's pretty confidential. And Dr. Lucas has one as well. But when we started to work on this piece and doing the research, deciding what instrument we wanted to use, et cetera, that's when we realized that the importance of the superintendent and having a plan there, if, and especially when we're dealing with things like COVID and, somebody gets sick or someone's out of the country and can't get back, what do we do? What's our plan? And so Allison was involved in that as well. We worked with Dr. Christie at UNO at the time, and we are one of the few, I think, that does have a succession plan around the superintendency. And we had to look out state to find some models for that. So I think it's important information. I'm glad that we have it. I think we're one of the few, and I applaud the board for taking the time to review the superintendent succession plan as well.
Very good, thank you. It's an important area, especially in a people-centered organization like a school district, to be strategic around HR and succession. And so that's an awesome tool to have. So thank you. Beth, I know you wanted to discuss this, so please go ahead.
Yeah, Enid touched on a lot of things, but I remember when Dr. McCann did announce his retirement, and Allison was like, "We have a plan in place," and she was very excited that it really laid it out, and it was very clear. It had been approved by the board. I love the fact that we now have had the opportunity to evaluate and look at how we did it with Dr. Lucas coming on board, make any adjustments and changes or not make changes because it worked well and it worked the way it was intended. I'm glad that we have, as a board, made it an expectation that every year we review this because we just never know when the superintendent might win the lottery. And so it is something that I do hear time and time again from NASB board members or other members of NASB that we have that and they think it's great. And it's something that I think should be best practice for school districts. And I'm glad that we take the time to continue to update it and evaluate it.
Very good, thank you. I would agree. Any other thoughts around this? And if there are none, then I would entertain a motion for approval of the revised recommendations.
There are no other comments. I move for the approval of the recommended revisions to the superintendent succession plan as presented by the Succession Planning Committee.
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded. If there are no further questions or discussion, then Molly, please take roll.
Yes. Ms. Carnes,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Ms. Morissette,
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely. Yes. Mr. Yale.
Yes. Okay, thank you. We will move on to the superintendent evaluation and contract. I'm just going to summarize this really quickly. Dr. Lucas, you are welcome to comment at any point, and my colleagues, you are as well. We had a new sort of approach with Dr. Lucas's arrival this year to several things: goal setting and evaluation. I think you'll see in your packets the goal list is included. If you start to run down that list and the number of things that we were able to knock off or at least make progress against, I think the district and Dr. Lucas did a heck of a lot this year. I think even when we hit this little speed bump of a global pandemic, a lot of things continued apace. I think nothing on there has been canceled. Some of it has been a little bit deferred. But I think that we and Dr. Lucas, you can be proud of what we've done and what we've accomplished this year. There is always a long way to go. And we know that, but boy, we're pretty excited about what's taken place so far. I think you know the team around Dr. Lucas, a lot of you have shown great abilities this year and outstanding talents and a lot of progress in a lot of areas. And so I would just like to sort of take this as a moment to look back really quickly and say thank you for everything that's been done for students this year. And I would, you know, I think there's a lot to be done, but I think we're pretty happy with what we've done thus far and look forward to what comes next.
I would just say that it's a total team effort, and it starts with the great Board of Education, and I mean that sincerely. This is my 17th year as a superintendent. I've been fortunate to work with great boards in Franklin, Nebraska, and York, Nebraska as well. But the dedication and the time commitment that and the pride that you all take in being a Westside board member does not go unnoticed. And truly, as a superintendent and as a leadership consultant, I can tell you that a district can only be as good as the Board of Education, and you guys set the bar very high. And because of your diligence, you allow the ceiling of District 66 to be extremely high. So thank you to the board. And then, surrounded by a lot of great people throughout the district and certainly here at ABC, when you talk about Mark Weichel, Enid Schoenweiss, Bob Zagozda, our senior leadership team, and then Molly Hurley, our admin assistant, and just a lot of talented, dedicated directors, folks like Matt Lee and Paul Lindgren in the technology department. And then when you get to the buildings and our building administrators and teachers and directors like Greg Betts and Kami Jessup and Kim De La Cruz, Robert Aranda. So a lot of really hardworking people, and I'm happy with how year one has gone. Never satisfied, but feel like we have laid a good foundation during year one, and there will be plenty to keep us busy for year 2, 3, 4, 5 on down the road.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, Adam, if I could, I just had a couple things to say, and I would second what you said earlier. We, the six of us, oftentimes have different views of certain things, but I think there was some pretty tight agreement on all the fundamentals about how Dr. Lucas is doing, and I think that's a real testament to his leadership. But I see our evaluation as really just kind of a ratification of the judgment of others, staff, community, parents, really the community as a whole. And I think the strengths that we see and have reported back to the public, I think, are the strengths that they see. And I've said before, I think we were very fortunate for Dr. Lucas to have had some time here before our chaos hit in mid-March to really get some momentum and really build some relationships and demonstrate some visibility and some really, really strong leadership. So I don't know that anyone could have done any better of a job than Dr. Lucas has with the challenges that he and his team have faced. And unlike the CEO of other types of organizations, I mean, he doesn't come in with a big entourage of people. He comes in, he's one person, and immediately gets to work with everyone that's already here. And that takes time to build relationships and trust. And in my judgment, he's done all that and done it very, very well. So I commend him on his first year. Looking forward to many more.
Thank you.
You said that very well, and Adam as well. And it's been a journey. And Dr. Lucas, I just want to state how much I appreciate the work you've done around the culture for the district. I think the number of emails I've gotten from district members, our community members, about the way you've been present, the things you've said, and the way you've said things, and the authenticity that you bring in conversations and honesty has been extremely well received. And I appreciate everything you have done for the district since you joined us. And I look forward to the next several years.
I would just echo what Stephen said. I mean, I think you guys have eloquently said it all, but just really, really pleased to have you here. Really grateful and thrilled with your leadership, your ability to build those relationships, which thank goodness you did, because we've needed them in this crazy time. And we've had a little fun too, and that's kind of nice. So really appreciate everything that you've done for the district, for the students, the staff, the teachers. Looking forward to getting through these trying times and really seeing where we can go, and just real grateful for your leadership during this time.
Thank you.
I would just echo what Chris said. I think it's been a really fun year despite the challenges of the end of the year. Just seeing you make those connections and seeing you embrace the culture, seeing your little vanity plate driving around the district, and all the little touches that you've put into it. And I'll just say two more quick things. Doug is correct. There were a lot of themes in our year-end evaluation that we all agreed on, which is kind of crazy when you think about 6 different individuals assessing a situation, and there were just positive things that kept coming up repeatedly. And in following you on social media, the one thing I've noticed from your Franklin people and your York people is that they're always so fast to say how much they miss you. And I feel bad for them, but I feel better for us. So anyhow, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lucas. Your leadership has just been fantastic this year, and it's been awesome to watch you move our leadership team, your leadership team, the districts forward. And Adam he likes to describe it as jumping on a rocket ship, and it's definitely felt like that this year. So I know it's so hard right now, and I know you've lost a lot of sleep, but thank you so much for your incredible hard work. And you can just feel it trickle through the district. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
So,
All right, let's move on.
all right, good. So we will move on. The one other item I would note: the contract, the amended contract, has been posted for several days now, and it did introduce a bonus structure. It is all public domain, and if you're curious, I would encourage you to go take a look. But I will be seeking approval for the approval of the 3-year contract and other details. So
Okay.
anybody wants to take that away,
I'm
please?
ready. I move to approve a 3-year contract for Dr. Mike Lucas as superintendent commencing July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023, with compensation in 2021, to include a base salary of $235,750 and all other provisions as are set forth in the proposed First Amendment to Employment Agreement and accompanying superintendent transparency notice that has appeared on the district's website continuously since May 6th, 2020, and to designate the board president to sign the contract.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, then Molly, please take the roll.
Yes, Mr. Krenzer,
Yes.
Mr. Krenzer?
Did you get that? Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ms. Morissette,
Yes.
Dr. Van Gelder,
Yes.
Ms. Blakely,
Yes.
Mr. Yale,
Yes.
Ms. Carnes.
Yes.
Okay. That concludes all of the new business at tonight's board meeting. We do have some time for board member representation updates and legislative updates. If anybody would like to go around the horn there, please kick it off.
I had one item I wanted to mention. Is this Bob and Allison's last board meeting?
More after this.
Yeah, they'll have one in June.
Okay. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to let that go unnoticed, so I will wait till next month.
Yeah, we'll be back in June.
Excellent.
I would say, though, that it is my last meeting of my first term on the board. And what a great term this has been. I will just thank all of my colleagues and people who have made this term easier for me, especially Molly Hurley, who has been great. And I hope to continue serving. You never know, but it has been a really wonderful first term. So thank you.
I'm going to follow Dana. I think this feels appropriate. I am so excited to be here tonight with everyone. There's been a lot of good stuff that's come out of the last 6 years. But recently, staying on topic, it's the virtual coffees, the conversations have been great with the questions that we have in the chats, with even the fun facts about Westside. Like, why don't we do that more often? I love the history lessons that we get that really, especially when you think about how many of us, Dana and I, since we're talking right now, are alums of the district and other board members as well. To hear those fun facts have been a lot of fun. So I appreciate that. Project Search is graduation this week. Always a highlight of the school year, always a tearjerker where you have to have Kleenex. There's several things that I miss from this year. I miss also not celebrating the anniversaries. I miss not celebrating the retirements. I miss not celebrating the graduations from elementary to middle school to high school, and high school to college or career or life. And so the other thing is closing of the school year when we do awards to the teachers. That is something I'm looking forward to hearing more about. School is wrapping up this week. My son would probably say not soon enough. But again, I do want to take a moment as the semester is coming to an end and thank every single staff person and volunteer and community member that has supported us through this change, whether it's through food or just checking in on friends or checking in on students. It's been a we effort. We are Westside, and I appreciate every single thing that everyone's done to continue the legacy of the district.
Can I add one thing to what you said, Beth, just quickly? I have missed a lot of those things also, but absolute shout out to Brandy Peterson and the communications department for doing, and some of Dr. Lucas's ideas as well, for doing the very, very best with what is a less than ideal situation. I think they have tried to celebrate those things that we're all missing, and I think they've done it as well as they can with the tools that they have.
Congratulations to Dana and Beth on 6 years well served. I've learned a lot from both of you and gained a lot of perspective, and thank you for your patience with me, and congrats on your service. Much appreciated.
Indeed, a 6-year term is not insignificant. It is significant. Both of you work very hard. I appreciate it, and it's been a joy to work with you. I guess in addition, we were able, a few of us were able to hand out pizzas one more time, which was also a great idea to be able to get staff together safely and also get staff who came by a good dinner. It was really nice to see those faces. I appreciate everybody hanging with the district through all of this. I particularly appreciate students and teachers staying with us during what's been pretty extraordinary times. I think we've learned a lot. I think it'll be interesting to see how this all starts up again in the fall. And boy, I'm certainly happy to be a part of this organization because I think we're doing a lot of great things, and no matter what format we have to deliver education, I have confidence we will deliver it and deliver it well and deliver it better every day. Is there anybody else that would like to discuss board member representation? If not, we'll move to legislative update.
Adam, could I just say one item?
Please.
I wanted to thank Melissa Scheidt and Jennifer Brockman and everyone who put together the Project Search graduation and who works in that program. I watched it on YouTube and I thought it was a tremendous program. And it's one of the highlights of the year, as we all know. And it's great to see what those students have done and think about what they will do. So I thought it was a great production. So I know there's a lot of people that were involved in it. I appreciate everyone's work on that.
Yeah, I want to echo that. It really is a highlight at the end of the year, and we were a little bit heartbroken that wasn't going to happen. And so I was glad they were able to put something together and then just repeat also what was said. I know that it's really tough for our seniors right now. You see your friends doing some virtual graduations, and we're not sure when ours is going to happen yet. And I know that's tough, and I just appreciate our community's patience with us as we try to figure all this out. And again, thanks to Brandy and our building leaders who are doing things for our sixth graders. I see things about art shows put out. I mean, I think people are still trying to get the information out there about these wonderful achievements of our students. And I'm just so grateful that people are a lot more creative than I am and can figure out how to do that in a way that keeps our community in the loop and really celebrates the achievement of our staff, our retirees, teachers, and our learners. So thank you to all of you for that. Oh, and also thank you to Beth and Dana for your service. I appreciate what you've done. And we all know how much work that is. So that's a lot over 6 years, and we appreciate it.
Well said. Thank you. Is there a legislative update to be had this evening?
Very brief one. Friday afternoon, I got a call from Sean Kelly, who continues to do a great job as our lobbyist. And there are significant rumblings coming out of Lincoln that a committee of 12 to 15 senators continue to work on school funding and reduction of an over reliance on property taxes, and that they're kind of looking at the next 2 weeks as a time to fish or cut bait, so to speak, as to whether or not they'll reconvene. But with the directed health measures being implemented today as of June 1st, it is maybe a little more probable than it was a week ago that there will be some type of legislative action in June. And GNSA, Stance, NERCSA, all of the school organizations sent a rebuttal to Senator Linehan's office last week that they're still not in favor of 1106 and the different changes that have been bantered about. So there's still a last ditch effort going on in Lincoln. K-12 organizations desperately want to be included in the conversations, and maybe something will or won't happen in June, but it's not over yet.
It's never over.
Never over.
All right. Well, good. Thank you. If there are no further legislative related matters, then I will move on to announcements. Tomorrow is the state primary. It is the Westside general election. Thank you again to all who serve this board, this organization. Thank you to those that ran. Thank you to my two colleagues who are finishing up their first 6-year term. I would encourage you, if you have not voted yet, to vote tomorrow. Try to do it safely. Boy, I hope you've got a mail ballot and that you have filled that out and sent that in. Finally, on June 15th, we will have Board of Education meeting. We will decide whether that is in person or virtual at a time prior to that meeting. And as that information is made available, it will be updated and posted on the district website. Is there anybody else that wants to speak tonight? Okay, if not, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:46 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, all. Good night.
Thank you.